Welcome to the character creation screen for World of Warcraft. This is the place where you'll craft the character that you will play as in Azeroth, which is the world that World of Warcraft is set in. During the character creation process, one of the first decisions that you'll have to make will be one of your most important ones, and that's where your allegiance lies. This will be either with the Horde or with the Alliance. Your choice of allegiance does not only affect what races you can play as, but also affects the areas in which you are able to call home. There are 4 races for each side in World of Warcraft. For the Alliance, you have the Humans, Dwarfs, Night Elves, and Gnomes. For the Horde, you have the Orcs, Undead, Tauren, and Trolls. Each of these races are available in either female or male. Each race has a slightly varying selection of classes that you can play as. Also, each side in World of Warcraft has a special unique class that the other side does not. The Horde has the Shaman, and the Alliance has the Paladin. You'll also be given the choice of playing on either a PvP server or non-PvP server. The main difference being that in a PvP server, you can attack somebody whenever you like, as long as they're on contested territory and they're on the opposing faction. In a non-PvP server, you would have to flag yourself in PvP mode before being able to battle with somebody from the opposing faction, whilst in contested territory. So, let's set out creating our character. Like many other MMORPGs, you can customize the way your character looks. We're going to choose a gnome mage to begin with. When you customize your character, you can customize the skin color, facial features, hairstyle, hair color, and facial hair. Or for the females, earrings. You can also choose to randomize the character if you can't pick something you like. And that's all for the character creation screen. Now we're going to enter the world of Azeroth with, in true Blue Peter style, a character that I've made earlier. Welcome to the world of Azeroth. The area you see right now is just on the outskirts of a town called Thalsimar, this region being just east to the region of where the capital city of Ironforge is. The environments that you'll encounter during your adventures between different lands in Azeroth are all something very different. Where we are right now, believe it or not, is just east to the lands which are completely encased in white snow. Also, in World of Warcraft, there is a true day and night cycle. The game runs on a 24-hour clock, which, when the game releases, will be the same as the time zone in your area. So if it's nighttime where you're living, it'll be nighttime in Azeroth too. The nighttime is skillfully applied in the World of Warcraft, as the environment stays just as beautiful and is visible in the night as it does in the day. You're here with my character Geno, who's a level 15 dwarf warrior. There are many classes available to you in the World of Warcraft, such as mage, rogue, and of course the paladin and shaman, depending on where your allegiance lies. But, seeing as my dwarf is a warrior, we're going to be focusing on the warrior class. So, enough running around, let's get into some action with our warrior. Unlike many other MMORPGs, Warrior is something quite different than what most of you would think it would be. Warrior is no longer just a class where you click on your enemies and go make a coffee, but is a character class with just as much depth as any other class in the World of Warcraft. The team at Blizzard have implemented something into the Warrior class called a rage system. Nope, it's not mana with a new name, but like mana, it is required for the warrior to perform most of his special moves or abilities. With a rage system, you gain rage when you're either hitting the enemy or when the enemy is hitting you, the things that you would expect to make your rage bubble. So, apart from a few select abilities such as the charge skill, you're unable to use any of your special attacks until you're actually in combat with your enemy. As the combat progresses, your rage, indicated by the meter in the top left, will build up, and you'll be able to perform your special attacks when you have built up enough rage for them. This adds much more depth than what there is for Warrior in other games. I'm not normally somebody who plays as a melee class, but I've thoroughly enjoyed Warrior. This coming from a guy who has purely played as mages before in previous games must say something. The Warrior also has different stances to it, a few being the battle stance, for when you're soloing and generally wanting to deal some damage, and the defensive stance, for when you're in a party and want to play as a tank. Each stance available to the Warrior is useful given different situations, but I personally enjoy playing as the battle stance so far. As you progress through the game, gaining your levels and abilities, you'll also eventually start gaining talent points. Talent points is something which you can assign to certain talent trees that become available to your character later on in the game. Depending on what class you're playing, it will depend on which talent trees are open to you, but they will allow you to develop your character to become what you want them to be, rather than just your run-of-the-mill mage or warrior. For example, as a mage, you can specialize in arcane magic, or fire magic, each having their own benefits. Now, in the world of Azeroth, life isn't always a bed of roses. There are plenty of things out there to kill you, and things don't always go according to plan.
Heal me!
Yep, you guessed it, my dwarf is dead. When you die in World of Warcraft, you'll have the choice of coming back as a ghost, or sitting around for 5 minutes, seeing if a friendly paladin or priest will come and resurrect you. If the 5-minute timer runs out, you'll automatically be sent back to your grave as a ghost anyway, whether you like it or not. In World of Warcraft, unlike other MMORPGs, there is actually no experience loss when you die. From the outset, the World of Warcraft team at Blizzard have said they wanted to remove some of the most annoying aspects of MMORPGs from the game, and removing experience loss when you die is just one of those aspects. Also, when you die, you won't lose any items that you may have equipped or have in your inventory. The penalty of death in the case of World of Warcraft is having to run all the way back to your body to then resurrect yourself. You also have the option of resurrecting when at your graveyard, but that would incur an experience loss, so most people prefer to take the time to run back to their bodies. Whilst dead, you cannot see other players in the world, or any other monsters for that matter, unless you're stood next to where you died. Then you can see the monsters and players that are near your body, so that you don't spawn right in front of a monster and die again, or in the case of PvP, spawn next to a player guarding your corpse. You can also walk on water when you're dead in World of Warcraft, which helps a lot when you have to travel great distances that involve travelling across water to reach your body. But if you do need to swim down into the ocean to get to your body, that's no problem either. I think it's time I show you around in one of the smaller towns in World of Warcraft, so let's go there now. In the World of Warcraft, there are not only big capital cities like Ironforge, which I'll show you later, but there are also lots of smaller towns on the outskirts of the different regions throughout Azeroth, just like this town of Thalsamar. The amount of detail for every house in the World of Warcraft is astounding. You can walk into the inn, and the tables will be littered with mugs and food, and other characters will be having a drink or warming themselves by the fire. In most other areas that you visit in Azeroth, you'll see other non-player characters wandering around doing their daily chores. Some of these characters are ones that you can talk to, be it for buying or selling items, or giving them a hand with a problem they're having in the form of a quest. Quests are a huge part of what World of Warcraft is all about. There are more quests in World of Warcraft than any other MMORPG, making leveling not the usual task of just grinding through the levels, killing the same monster over and over again for a level, then moving to do the same with another monster. With World of Warcraft, you have a real sense of purpose as you progress from town to town and region to region, exploring the storyline and completing the huge amounts of quests that World of Warcraft has to offer. Some of the quests offer items or money. Something that's impressed me with the World of Warcraft is that all the different equipment that you can buy or get always looks different, even if only by a small amount. So when you get that new piece of armor you've been longing for, you don't only get to enjoy the added benefits of a better piece of armor, but you also get to marvel at how shiny it is too. Now you've seen one of the smaller towns in World of Warcraft, I'd like to show you one of the capital cities of Azeroth, Ironforge. Most races in the game have a place that they can call home, and Ironforge is home to the Dwarves of Azeroth. As you can see by just looking at its entrance, Ironforge is a huge city, much different from that of Thalsamar. Ironforge is a place that you'll be spending a lot of time at if you're a dwarf or a gnome. And even if you're not, as an Alliance player, you'll still be spending a lot of time here, because Ironforge is the capital city which holds the Alliance's only auction house in the game. The auction house is the trading center between players. It's like the eBay of World of Warcraft, especially at the higher levels. The best items in the game can generally be found at the auction house at one time or another. and most players will do most of their equipment shopping there, unless they're lucky enough to get a weapon that they wanted dropped off a monster. You can also sell items at the auction house, which is a good idea, as most of the time, the price that a non-player character might give you for an item isn't its full worth, and another player out there would most likely be willing to pay a lot more for the same item. A nice addition to World of Warcraft is the implementation of mailboxes, and, as the name sounds, they're used to do all things involving mail. With these, you can send an item to another player, and you can also use something called a cash-on-delivery system, meaning that they can't have the item until they send you the money for it in return. A good thing if you want to trade with another character privately when they are far away. In Azeroth's capital cities, you'll also find banks, and just like banks in the real world, it's the place where you will store all your precious items that you won't be wearing and the items that you don't want to store inside your inventory. You can also purchase additional bag slots at the bank, in which you can place inventory bags so you can increase the capacity of your bank account, which in the later levels of the game can become a necessity.
Be good.
Shopping, banking, and doing your daily mailing are not the only things to do in Ironforge. When you level, it's most likely that as a dwarf or a gnome, you'll come here to add to the finishing touches. As you level in World of Warcraft, you'll be allowed to train more and more skills, but fighting skills aren't the only things that you'll get when you level in the game. You can also get something called professions. Professions in World of Warcraft are skills that your character can learn in order to craft or forge valuable items, and the trainers for these professions are scattered all over Azeroth, as well as located in Ironforge. As you progress in the game, you'll gather the resources needed for the production of these items, and you'll also have to start learning to make more advanced items as you produce more. The more you use a profession, be it mining or skinning, the higher its level will become, and the more things you can do with it. There are also lesser professions, like cooking and first aid, which will help your character during the many countless battles to come. With Azeroth being such a huge world, you'll be happy to know that there are many methods of transportation to get around, not only walking on foot. There are also things like the train at the base of Ironforge, and the zeppelins that run outside of the Undercity. These are all free methods of transport between capital cities, but you'll have to wait a few minutes for them to arrive whilst you're waiting. As you reach the higher levels in World of Warcraft, the option also opens up for you to purchase your own method of transportation, known as a mount. This comes in the form of a horse-like creature, with different variations, like a mechanical chicken or a cat-type creature, depending on your race. However, these don't come cheap. With other classes like the Warlock and Paladin, you'll be able to summon your very own mount specific to that class in the higher levels. A big part of World of Warcraft is its player versus player features, and we're going to cover some of them now. Player versus player, or PvP, in World of Warcraft is incredibly well thought out. In World of Warcraft, you can have duels between anybody you like, as long as it is consented. However, you cannot duel inside the cities. In contested territory, you can attack anybody you like, as long as it is on the opposing faction. The main reason being that contested territory is owned by neither the Horde nor the Alliance, and is under conflict between the two sides as to who owns it, hence being able to attack each other in these zones. When players of an opposing faction are in your faction's territory, you must attack that player first before they can attack you. This stops higher level players coming into new player areas and slaughtering them for no reason. Even if the newer players were silly enough to attack the higher level players, there are guards surrounding all the capital cities with enhanced levels of powers to protect the people dwelling within its walls. Even the smaller towns have guards, but they are much weaker than the guards that protect the capital cities. Something that is being implemented at the time of this video's production is called the honor system. This is being put in place to stop players killing people dishonorably, like a player killing a person 30 levels lower than them when they're away from their keyboard. If a player gets such a terrible honor rating, even their own city's guards will start to attack them, forcing them to become an outcast until they've regained their own honor. Well, that's the end of the video now. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and that maybe it's shown you some of the aspects of World of Warcraft which you may not be fortunate enough to see firsthand. I'll leave you with a few pieces from a griffin flight from Ironforge to Stormwind. Thanks for watching.